Ki khubor ka Batesi TV.
Ka umdi basnyam bat penjaslian. Rupa Premium Meghalaya.
Kibun ki amat leg la kerana ki jing ki baki pat ba ki kendo nak ada ka jing Biang Rukom Treikam ketenat boarding jeng ka sorkar jela. Dan ki amat leg berkenan halo ka jing la penpoi boarding ka sorkar ciki yeng ni syakishnong hagi constituency jongki. Dan ki amat leg berkenan halo ka jing sarang kina elektrik la nigi pol hagi constituency jongki. Ya ka bakatenat kam shim le AA bat dan ru ki bether ting ya ka sorkar. Halo ka jing ki palat ka bai thang ding khamtam mentaus nem. Habakaran halo ka bintau nong ilam kaliang persya Dr. Mukul sangma la Takrain ting ketenat boarding da ka boong bak Rukom Treikam jongki kambiang bagi bon palat ki jing duna. Dr. Mukul uloong bo ukindid bahaying jong u kebadan hanong rim hills kebai thang ding kelapoi hadu kat praja ting ka shibnai bagi jing phe na kebai thang ding keberim bak peminta kelong syabening syakendau. Uloong bala de jakum ni kede kejing lek benji ki rupat ba bat ka sorkar kan hab ban perkhat bahaya kan ni bagan hab ban pen baik nang bagan om pin sertok yaki pat ba.
Point out certain concerns with regard to power department. In fact, the concern that I'm going to point out is the concern that repeatedly I've raised this before the Honorable Minister concerned. The first concern that I would like to raise is with regard to unelectrified localities. We are not talking about villages, but I'm talking specifically with my constituency. And I do believe that there are many localities and villages that are yet to be fully electrified within the state. Yes, there are certain localities within my constituency, especially in Mukul and few adjoining areas, where for the past 5 to 10 years, the residents of these locality, they are yet to be electrified. And I have raised this concern, and I have met the minister in charge personally also, and I do believe that the minister will take a serious note with regard to this problem. Another point of concern that I would like to raise, where I've seen that this is not only in my constituency. In fact, it's spread across the state, where these rusted electric pole, in fact, in my constituency, almost every day, I receive a call from the resident within my constituency, where they air their grievances with regards to these rusted electric pole, which pose a serious threat to the life of the people and the passerby. So I request the Honorable Minister to kindly look into this matter. It is very serious. And another concern is with regards to unprotected transformers. In fact, one of the honorable member had raised this issue, and in fact, just a few days, it was there in the news where a cattle had faced the consequences of these transformers where there is no proper fencing. And let me remind this August House, in fact, there are many individuals who have lost their precious life in the past few years because of these unprotected transformers. And therefore, I request the Honorable Minister to kindly take serious note with regard to this matter. And finally, I would like to raise this issue before the Honorable Minister. In fact, in the month of June last year, there was an incident where late Bankarshan Kharmaushun, who is an employee of Meghalaya Power Distribution Corporation Limited, who joined service on 27 April 2016, working in the field of operation and maintenance of HT and LT lines. Late Bankarshan Kharmaushun unfortunately died on duty while attending to complaints at Lumdingri on the 4th of June 2024. leaving behind his dependent wife and two minor children aged 13 and 17 years old. That now after the demise of her husband, late Bankarshan Kharmaushun, who is the sole breadwinner of the family, his wife, Kong Shaburin Marwen, is facing financial problems, finding it hard to make ends meet, especially to look after her two dependent children, being herself dependent. And that since late Bankarshan Kharmaushun, who throughout his service have been faithfully and sincerely performing his duty diligently, even to the point of losing his life on the line of duty, and based on humanitarian ground, I felt that the corporations is also duty-bound to look after the welfare and well-being of his widowed wife and two minor children. Therefore, based on the above facts and circumstances, I hope that the minister concerned will go the extra mile to help accommodating Kong Shaburin Marwen in whatever capacity they can, so as to help her sustain herself and her two minor children. So with these few words, I will resume my seat.
Any other member? Yeah, Charles.
So I'd like to also participate in the cut motion tabled by Sri Ardent Millabasmoy on the functioning of the power department. So I had raised the issue which I'm going to raise now on many occasions, and I would like to again bring to the notice of the Honourable Minister a few factors that still has not been resolved. Although let me place on record, sir, that the MECL department under the leadership of the Honourable Minister, I normally don't like to praise or thank somebody like you have mentioned in the last session, the other day, that whether you would like to say something not favorable against the Chief Minister for not giving any schemes to the constituency. But sir, that is a different subject. Here I would like to place on record that there has been a marked improvement and hard work put in by the department to ensure that there is no load shedding. But there's one issue, sir, that has not been solved, and that is for young entrepreneurs. The establishment or infrastructure which they set up requires a certain amount of kilowatts, which requires them to apply for a transformer. In the excess of your demand of 15 kilowatts, you are compelled, or that is the rule, that states that you have to write to the department through the area manager concerned, and he prepares an estimate after taking into consideration the place and the distance from the line which can provide the power, which is the 11 kV line, and a bill is given to you. By the time that you apply to the area manager until you get the estimate, there is a lapse of about 5 to 6 months. Now this is, I'm talking through experience. What I've heard from people, let us put that aside for now. The question is, why this delay? The manuals of the MECL or MEPDCL is very clear. They have all the rates of whatever is required, right from the poles to the insulators to the distributors to whatever you require is there. Yet it takes 5 to 6 months to get an estimate, sir. So that, I feel, should not be the case. Then, sir, after you get the estimate, you are required to deposit the amount which is stipulated in that estimate, which sometimes in cases runs to lakhs and lakhs of rupees. So that is done. After that, you will be lucky, sir, if you get the transformer installed within that calendar year. And this has happened. The question is, after you pay for something, you expect it to be given to you the next day. But since it is a transformer and there are major lines to be pulled, electric poles to be installed, allow them the liberty of a month or two. But 6 to 8 months. Just the interest component on the money which you have deposited, which you have taken as a loan, will add to your losses. So this is another thing, sir. So why is the department so slow in doing all this? So if you go to any store or a vehicle dealership, you ask them if they want to buy a car. Before you have mentioned what you want, they've already given you the estimate. That is how the department should work. That is how the officers should deal with the situation. But this lackadaisical attitude, because it's not my baby, I do not benefit, that has to be removed from the minds of the people who are involved in this case. This is my request. And I sincerely hope that the Honourable Minister, who is very capable of handling the department, will put an end to this and ensure that this doesn't happen. Number 3, sir, that is for transport. Even providing house connections. Barely goes the time when the person who wants a connection will approach the local MLA or his legislator concerned to kindly put in a word so that he or she gets the house connection. Why should we be involved in this? That's not the MLA's job to write to the department to make sure that person X or Y gets the connection as soon as possible. They're paying for it. That also should be addressed immediately. They have to run from pillar to post, and then sometimes the officers are not present there. So these are the few things that improves the functioning of the department and endears the public to the department then. And lastly, sir, the congestion in the city, as we all know, is a topic we always discuss. And the PWD Roads Department is trying to broaden the roads, expand, in most cases, in the city. But when the road is expanded, the electric pole is right in the middle of the road. Now who will remove that? The PWD says it's the department's job. The department says it's the PWD's job. So these things are also a major obstacle. So you broaden the road, but no one benefits because there's a damn electric pole in the middle of the road. So these are the things which the department should kindly look into, and I would request the Honourable Minister to kindly address these issues so that we don't have to bring it up again in the House in the form of a cut motion or a motion or a question. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Anyone?
Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, I also rise to support the cut motion, tabled jointly by Honourable Member from Nongkrem and Honourable Member from Maulai. In respect of grant number 11, Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, it's a very crucial sector. The Minister in charge power has been with this whole exercise of troubleshooting, dealing with challenges, issues. He has come a long way, very conditioned and experienced. But despite the challenges are there. Now I'd like to draw the attention of the Minister in charge pertaining to one very serious issue. Now, the serious issue is the tariff. As consumer, we all consume. You look at the tariff prior to 1st April 2024 and effective from 1st April 2024. Look at the difference. Look at the escalation. And also the usual approach adopted as a policy, as a matter of policy, to see that we have a little space to play by creating so-called the approach of adopting the cross-subsidization of the tariff for the domestic consumers, the common man, the poor people, and somehow shift this burden in a proportionate manner to the industries. This is how the whole tariff exercise is used and resorted to as a matter of policy. Now, that's the reason why we try to attract investment. That's the reason why we do require industrialization to an extent that is necessary to ensure that the momentum of growth is generated and at the same time sustained. But industries cannot be somehow considered as the blue-eyed boys of the power sector authorities and pass on the burden in respect of tariff to the common consumers, to the people, to the citizens. Now, how is the tariff calculated? The Electricity Act 2003 pertaining to the tariff petition by the concerned distribution company is self-explanatory. Now, all the overhead expenditure by all the separate entities are worked out. So generation companies, every per unit generation cost is calculated based on which the respective tariff of every unit generated by respective generation stations are finalized. So this is passed on. Somewhere you will have a low tariff, the hydroelectricity project which have been established long time ago. That is something which comes as a cushioning effect for making good to the electricity which is being generated by the new generation stations. Because the new generation stations will have the burden of repayment of interest on the borrowing that was required for the development of the project itself. So there is a mechanism which is incorporated in the whole system of fixing the tariff at different levels. Then the wheeling charge. Wheeling charge is also again governed by the law. So the distribution company will take into consideration all the charges, wheeling charges, and then every unit that is purchased from the generation companies, whether it is our own generation company or also from outside. The whole cumulative expenses. But on top of that, what is the other overhead? The overhead which is due to the mismanagement, inefficiency, and corruption. Now for a construction of a distribution company where we needed 100 crore, if you spend 150 crore, where will this money be? The investment, where is it going to come back? This is passed on to the tariff, to us, to the common man, to the unguarding, innocent consumers of the state who do not have the access to this information, this knowledge as to how tariff is determined. That means indirectly, I am paying more because of the inefficiency of this distribution company. Every household, every poor, every widow who has the electricity connection, they are paying. Is it the way to run this sector? That's why we say in the interest of the public, in the interest of the people. Because everybody is affected because of corruption, because of inefficiency, because of the manner in which the whole money which is being injected into this crucial sector is being misused. That is the reason why we have been asking and demanding for inquiry. Not to point a finger, but to create a deterrent so that the same thing doesn't become a modus operandi available before greedy people in authority. Temptation. We must insulate our people from temptation. How will we insulate? By deterrence. What are those deterrents? that we are talking about, through transparency, to regular monitoring, to taking into cognizance any information pertaining to irregularity. But this government has always been in the habit of adopting a mode called denial mode. Am I going to make my submission in this house for nothing? No, Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir. It is because the way things are going on, it will become very difficult for our common man to pay the electricity charges. I checked up my electricity bill for my Nongra Mills residents. 18,000 rupees for 1 month. 18,000 rupees Dr. Mukul is paying. Last year, how much? Compare. Sudden, escalation. I don't think everybody is looking at this angle. Why is this increasing? It is because of all the added burden of the expenditure, which is due to manipulation of the cost. You look at all these programs funded by EAPs. We are fortunate that we have the EAP, where substantial amount is coming as grant. But you look at the borrowing, subsequent other borrowings. Look at the burden of interest. I referred in my submission during the discussion on budget, though these were very efficiently avoided in course of reply. Look at the interest burden of these three entities. Our Meghalaya Power Generation Company, and then Power Transmission Company and Power Distribution Company, and with the holding company, MECL. The interest burden has shown increase every year from 2021 onwards. The interest burden was around 150 crore. In 4 years, it doubled. Interest, I'm not talking about other things. Now, this interest burden has to be again looked at from the interest coverage ratio. It is not workable anymore in respect of distribution company. When financial, whole fiscal health is gone out of control, then it is not workable. That is how the whole auditing, accounting in respect of a corporate world is worked out. It is not workable anymore in respect of Meghalaya Power Distribution Company Limited. Therefore, it is necessary for the government to take serious interest in identifying the areas where the avoidable expenses which has added upon this extra cost on the implementation of the project should be done. Now, I'm not trying to point a finger to someone or anybody, but it is necessary because everybody is paying. It is not that government is getting loan, giving grants, so they spend as they like, and then the burden is not passed on to us. No, it is passed on to us, the consumer. It is not passed on to even the government. Government is not going to pay the bill. We are going to pay the bill, the consumers. Therefore, there is a need to look at the whole approach to this. Somehow, Meghalaya State Electricity Regulatory Commission has its own job. They will fix the tariff based on the expenses, cumulative expenses, the overhead expenses, which are inclusive of the losses, which are inclusive of the hidden costs which otherwise were not required in the manipulation in the process of implementation of program, thereby inflating the cost of expenses in the process of implementation. Therefore, every investment that has taken place in the state and the cost associated thereof must be put to auditing. Special auditing is required. Otherwise, this will become a precedent and MECL will in totality become a milching cow. It has become a milching cow. Look at all these other reports of the preceding years of the CAG, which is available before all of us. Self-explanatory. how much avoidable expenditure has been incurred due to due to deviation from the normal procedure of whole implementation. It is there. Last year's report, preceding year's report, it is there clearly before us. Not 1 rupee, 2 rupee, not 1 crore, 2 crore, 150 crore, close to 200 crore. And that is only tip of the iceberg. Look at Ganol Power Project. I will make a submission before this August House, before the Minister in charge. Ganol Project, before 2018, what was the physical progress of the project? I want to know. The House should know. What was the physical progress of Ganol hydroelectricity project in respect of physical progress, with respective components thereof? Because, why I'm saying this? Because subsequently, there was a sudden escalation, huge escalation. And when we wanted to know what was the reason of escalation, then the explanation which was discussed, deliberated in this August House in the preceding years, it is needed to be repeated now by me because the government seems to be willingly trying to hide the facts. In whose interest? In whose interest? Whom are we trying to protect and defend? Why? Now the explanation. I have run this power sector for quite substantial time. I have read the Electricity Act 2003, everything, not just once, number of times. Because it was during my time when we adopted the state power policy. And we started the whole unbundling of the then Meghalaya State Electricity Board. We were in transition, we were in difficult situation, and the minister in charge was also in charge of this power department at that point of time, subsequent to the unbundling. So, therefore, the generation, we had a dedicated fund earmarked for this Ganol power project, hydroelectricity project. We ensured that the resources does not become a reason for delay in implementation. Dedicated fund was kept, almost like a deposit money. The whole money required for the completion of the project was completely tied, TIED, tied. It was already supported by a dedicated tied fund. Then 2018 sudden proposed escalation, the reason was that geological surprises. We use this word for Leska Mantudu project, geological surprises. Geological surprises can be always there because we don't know what is inside. We don't know what is inside. Only when project is taken up, then we will come to know what is inside. If we are lucky, if there is no geological surprises, then the expected cost which is projected in the initial stage of DPR will stand. But in the event of geological surprises, we are bound to have certain, based on that kind of geological surprises. But, Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, why I'm referring to this is because the physical progress, the components of works completed were such that there was no more underground work left by the end of 2017-18. So where is these geological surprises? It is in the air? It is in the open air? So does it not require a serious measure to be taken by government to know and find out? Otherwise, it will amount to failure in protection of the interests of the people and interests of the state. Now, here are two things. One is the drainage of avoidable resources, avoidable prevention of drainage of resources. Preventable. Number two is that because of the cost factor which will be added upon to determine the tariff. That's why the tariff has gone. What is the tariff fixed by the State Electricity Regulatory Commission for Ganol project? I think the House should know. The House should know what is the tariff being charged by Meghalaya electricity generation company in respect of the power which is being purchased by the Meghalaya Power Distribution Company, MEPDCL, from the power generation company, Meghalaya Power Generation Company. The tariff, in respect of the tariff pertaining to the electricity being drawn from Ganol hydroelectricity project. This will give an indication to us, to common man, to know, oh, this is also, because of this tariff is added. Then, we have invested substantial amount of money for upgrading the transmission lines. Now, transmission company, never had the transmission company shown any loss. But suddenly, it has started showing loss. I want to know from the minister in charge the cause of loss reflected in the accounts and financial statements of the Meghalaya Power Transmission Company. Then the issue of the implementation of number of programs. As I made my submission, every cost, every overhead expenditure is going to be taken into consideration while submitting the tariff petition by the Power Distribution Company to the State Electricity Regulatory Commission. Therefore, every component, any new component of additional cost, which is the reason for increased tariff being proposed by the distribution company, must be examined by the government. We know that there is a clause before determining the tariff, the hearing. Do people come and actually present or post their complaints? No. All people are innocent. They think that, okay, electricity, we need electricity. Even if it is costlier, doesn't matter, I want electricity. So, taking advantage of the innocence of our people, if this is what is going on. What is the role of Electricity Regulatory Commission also? Yes, they have to determine, they should know how to say no. Because of the inefficiency, if any proposed added cost is being incorporated and factored in the petition for revised tariff, the Commission has to indicate this is because of your sheer avoidable escalated expenditure. This is what used to be done before. That's why the power sector, though we incur loss because of the inefficiency, we did not pass on the burden to the consumers. But today, as though it is more like a, match fixing, everybody is willing and the conglomeration of the willing group. It is becoming like that. This is the perception. With no intent to point finger, but the perception matters. Perception matters. But at the same time, when the perception matters, only people who know are having this perception. What about the innocent consumers across the state? It is the responsibility of each member of this august house to protect the interests of the people of the state. Every single paisa that we are unnecessarily burdening, which can be avoided, if we don't prevent it, it is our failure. Failure which is beyond our capacity to prevent is something else, but this is something which we must collectively decide to prevent. That's why I'm flagging these issues. These are cumulative irregularities. It might not have happened now, but it has happened and it is happening. There's a continuity. There's a continuity and the law must prevail. Law must prevail. Take cognizance of all those areas of irregularities. Go for some inquiry. Let people be afraid of law. I have also referred to one particular serious issue in last session, but I did not get a reply on that. That was in my submission during the I don't know whether it was a cut motion or a budget discussion, but I did refer about the power purchase and resale of the power. Look at the difference. how much was the unit of electricity purchased and what was the rate at which it was sold. How it is regulated. The whole power trading is regulated. How this is possible, I don't know. It is never possible because there is a regulatory mechanism. In fact, the whole Central Electricity Regulatory Commissioner has the power to regulate all those sell and the quantum of margin of profit to all the power traders. They cannot go beyond certain amount of power, margin of profit. But how these are happening? This is in view of the report which was made available before the August House by the auditing body. So is it not necessary, therefore, to go into details? How can we sell something if we buy something at 1 rupee 50 paisa? We cannot sell it at 1 rupee. I would urge the minister in charge to really look at all those areas of concern, because then it will have its ramification, positive ramification, a course correction for the future. Then we will at least prevent our people from being victim of this whole ever increasing uncontrolled tariff, the petition which they are submitting and the Regulatory Commission happily approving, and the burden is being passed on to the consumers. Then another part is the tariff, the bill, electricity bill which is being generated and being passed on to the consumers. Some friends from Rivoy talked to me. Sir, how is it that we didn't have electricity for a few months and we are still getting a bill generated? All the consumers. I am being specific about the district. In respect of the households who have the electricity connection but were not having electricity because of transformer damage and who were not actually getting power for almost few months. So bill generated during the time when electricity is not being provided to the consumer. Now, this gives us a reason to be analytical. How it can be? Every power injected, there is a auditing process. So what is the total power injected in respect of that particular district? How the bill can be generated against those households or villages who have the otherwise electricity connection, but during that time no electricity. Whether this power injected in the district is being diverted to somebody else, whose power bill our people, common men, are paying, is a matter of question. We have to find out. Idhar ka mal udhar. There is a possibility. We are in the era of technology. We have the smart meters. Therefore, the department has to take cognizance of this issue. Our people can be like the cyber crime. No, meter. Your meter reading is this. Your meter can be tampered, hacked. That's the reason why there is an advisory from Government of India. Any meter which is a product of company affiliated to our neighboring country should not be used. Advisory is there. From what perspective? From security perspective. Can you imagine in this Middle East what happened? Even the pagers became bomb. Even the wireless walkie-talkies of the security agencies became a bomb. This is an era of technology. Now, whether this technology is being misused to victimize our people and make them pay for the power which is not being consumed, is it not necessary for us to investigate this? Is this power being transferred to some industry, some specific industries, or some other industry, not necessarily within the state? Because we show that, okay, we have bought a power from one particular generation company which may be outside Northeast. We may actually not sell it here. Maybe there is a hacking process in the whole, your dispatcher system, power dispatch centers. Anything can be hacked. Even when the earlier Twitter, X, they faced the hacking, massive hacking. And we heard Elon Musk referring to it, that IP address showed that it originated from somewhere. They attributed to one nation which is in war. So, Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, we cannot take these things as something which is not necessarily necessary for us to take serious note of. We have to take serious note of this. Whether our people are being cheated by some vested interest, by some group of people. In this country, as also in other countries, we just saw recently how our youth who were almost like kidnapping and being taken to Myanmar were rescued and brought back. Cyber crimes, all kinds of criminal activities by abuse of knowledge and technology. Therefore, Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, this power sector is one sector where a robust mechanism should be put in place. And all these issues must be taken as a lead point for us to be serious, to see, to analyze, okay, are we being targeted by somebody? Or are we becoming vulnerable? Yes, we are vulnerable. Is our vulnerability an issue to be taken cognizance of and addressed? Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, the Minister in charge himself is also an engineer. So, from all this perspective, please take cognizance of every point. It is not a time when I can speak more, because we have many more items which are being taken up for discussion through this provision of the rules of procedure and conduct of business through cut motion. So I would like to wind up my submission here, but with full expectation that the government take note of these issues with utmost seriousness and commitment to resolve these issues and do correction. Please save our people from being victim of unnecessary, ever-increasing tariff due to inefficiency. And this efficiency must be corrected, and people who are resorting to manipulation to make these organizations, these entities, crucial entities, becoming a loser entities, must be taken to task as per the law of the land. So with these few words, I hope government will definitely look at these issues and do justice to the responsibility and the power which is vested upon them. Thank you, Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir.